some new civics offerings that are becoming available on the website for K-12 educators. I'm Claudette Canarium. I'm the communications coordinator at New Hampshire Civics, and I'm joined here with our executive director, Allison Ryder, who's out in the background handling tech. And if you're not familiar, we are a small statewide nonprofit. We're based in Concord, and our mission is to support civics education, primarily in the grades K-12 throughout the state. So if you go to our website at nhcivics.org, you'll see some resources, our free PD sessions. And actually, this is our last PD of 2024. So there's nothing on the books quite yet for 2025, but feel free to keep monitoring our website, and we'll be sending out emails to you as well throughout the year. So before I turn things over, I just have a few quick housekeeping notes. Full disclosure, as you probably just heard, we're recording today's session so that we can share with other teachers who couldn't be here today. So if you have any colleagues that you'd like to pass along, let them know that this recording will be available on our website early this week. Also, if you haven't already, if you could make sure your name is reflected on your Zoom platform, it'll be easier to identify you if you have a question. And during the presentation, if you have a question or comment or something you want to share with the group, just feel free to drop it into the chat, and either Nancy or one of us will address it when the timing is right. And then if you are interested in a virtual PD certificate, I typically generate them automatically and send them to you within the next few days. So if you don't want one, please reach out and send me an email. And then lastly, when we wrap up around 5, I'll be dropping a link to our exit ticket in the chat. If you could just take a few minutes and let us know what you thought of today's workshop, that would be super helpful. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the baton over to Nancy Rose. Take it away, Nancy.
All right. Thank you, Claudette. Welcome, everybody. And I appreciate you taking a little bit of time out of your soon-to-be dark evening here in New Hampshire. I hate that the sun sets it's like it's going to be set before we're done. So I, as Claudette said, I'm the senior manager for the statewide strategic partnership between the Department of Ed of New Hampshire and Discovery Education, which provides access to Discovery Ed Experience, which is a platform of K-12, bless you, K-12 multimedia content across the subject areas, including career exploration, health, as well as other areas, professional learning, et cetera. And we were contracted by the department to also create resources for teaching New Hampshire civics pursuant to SB 216. And I have been very happy to be able to work with Allison and Claudette to get the word out and share resources, both within Discovery Ed Experience and with what we're in the process of developing as part of that partnership for New Hampshire Civics specifically. So, and actually what I'm sitting in front of the background of what will become the channel for this content in the platform, and it's not quite ready for prime time. I'm hoping it will be out. The first batch of lessons I'm hoping will be out within the next couple of weeks. I'm going to share my screen really quickly. And I just want to give you a look at some of what we are developing, as well as some of what we have in the Experience platform. I'm also just adjusting my screen so I can see everybody. So this is Discovery Ed Experience. This is the main dashboard. It is around 150,000 resources across the subject areas, as I mentioned. And I'm going to walk you through a few things in a minute. But I also was able to pull up resources that are just about ready to be published in the Discovery Ed platform. And one thing I like to point out is this means it will be integrated into the Experience platform, which teachers are already using. If you are in a school that's not set up, you can just let me know. I can put my email address in the chat, and you can reach out and we can work on getting your access set up, because every school in the state is able to have that access. And so what I wanted to do first is just give you a quick look. Oops, sorry. I changed my accounts for what I was doing. So let me go back to this. So one of the first things I wanted to point out is the supports for educators that go along with this content. So this is an example of an educator guide. They created this sort of to overarch over the content that we built. The content was built as a partnership with the Department of Ed and the New Hampshire Civics Commission. And then we had some feedback sessions this summer with social studies teachers across the state. And we've also, one of the commission members is Elizabeth Dubrill of the New Hampshire Historical Society. So you will see some of our lessons will incorporate the Moose on the Loose content as well. So it is really designed to be for New Hampshire, about New Hampshire. So this is just an example of some of the supports that we put in place for the teachers. So we're giving overview information, the guiding themes for the content that we built around the founding principles for New Hampshire, history of New Hampshire and the Constitution, structure and purpose of government. So getting into that civic theme, and then also civic responsibility, kind of that bigger picture question. There will be a total of 78 lessons that are going to be K to 5, and that'll for K to 12. K to 5, it will be 8 lessons per grade level. And then when we get into middle school, they'll do a set of 15, and at high school, they'll do a set of 15 because it's a little less clear where they land in the grade band for that. We're also creating a guide that will show a full template of what topics are getting taught at what grade level. And that's currently being updated. Otherwise, I would share that with you today. And then we are also planning to make one augmented reality sandbox experience, although I'm hoping that we'll be able to make maybe one other one if we can get funding for it. And if we get to do that, that'll be a surprise announcement. So this is just an example of a support that we put in place to give teachers around like the overarching goals of the content. And then I wanted to just show a couple of lessons. This is a high school lesson, the limits on majority rule, and this is in our studio tool. And I can give you other resources in Studio just so you can see it. But this is, I'm looking at a teacher view of a Studio lesson. It's kind of like a PowerPoint. They can take a couple of different formats, but it's a way to integrate media with directives, information, inquiry, prompts, instructional strategies, etc. So with this particular lesson, I can scroll down if I'm the educator and see I've got teacher notes that are giving me standards. We did use the New Hampshire Social Studies framework. So I can pull that up and I can look at those. It is showing me what the target is, the learning target for this lesson, how to go through it in the classroom. It's giving me graphic organizers. This one is aligned to that HAPPY framework. I don't know if you're familiar with that, the historical context, the audience, the purpose, the point of view, and why it's important. And then this is a printable graphic organizer that the teacher could use. And then as I keep going down, in this case, this one's not fully fleshed out yet, but they would put teacher notes for every single slide. So a teacher is never flying by the seat of their pants with these resources. They have the scaffolds and the structures in place, and any kind of assessment that goes with it is built in. And I'm going to show you, this is the kind of the research view, like if you're looking through lessons and want to see the basic information about it. I can see a student view. So they are keeping the slides visible to students so they can jump around and they can see where they are rather than kind of blind like when you're in a PowerPoint. One of the other things, and this is a board format because it's a little bit bigger than that slide. One of the other things about Studio that makes it a really good tool to support student learning is we have licensed the Microsoft Immersive Reader, and this is available throughout our platform if anything is Studio. And what that does is grab the text from anything that's presented this way. So I'm going to just show you this tool. I'm hoping that you can hear it. So it grabs the text, and I've got my parts of speech turned on, so it's a good way to work on those grammar and ELA skills. I can adjust it for font, spacing, contrast, etc. And I can play it.
Analyze the primary source.
Can you hear it?
1. Read the excerpt of Federalist No.
So if this is something, if you have a student that's struggling with reading, they have access to this tool. So if the resource is assigned to them, they can turn on this tool and use it. And in addition to the allowed reading, you can have a focus tool that limits so they're not overwhelmed by too much text. And then also, if you have EL or ML students, you can adjust the language. So I'm just going to change this to Portuguese, translate the document, and now they can have that read.
Analisar uma fonte primária. Leia o trecho de Federalista número.
So thinking about, and I'm just going to skip back out of there. This is just one little feature that makes the studio tool a very powerful support for the classroom. But this can be a great way if you've got newcomer students, which I've been working across the state and am learning that this is becoming more and more true just about everywhere in New Hampshire. This is a way for them to be able to get that content in their language in support while they're also developing their English language skills. And then another cool feature of anything built in our studio tool is that all of these can be edited. So we've created this, we've created the content, we brought in the primary source documents like this and created the lesson, but teachers can then take this and they can edit it and they can make a copy. I'm not going to do it because it takes too much time, but I can make a copy of that and I could change up the text. I could add pages. I might want to add a writing prompt or anything to differentiate, support learners of different levels, or to turn it into a lesson that better fits the approach I was going to take. And I'm mindful of having worked across the state since the law was put in place. Different districts are handling how they'll do this extra instruction in different ways. Some are going to look at it as an ELA edition. Some of them are incorporating it with social studies. So they're figuring out where it's going to fit. And that flexibility with the lessons allows teachers to customize it to fit wherever they want it to go. So that's one example. That was a high school level. This one is a middle school level, Constitution and individual rights. And again, the teacher supports, the graphic organizers, what to expect walking through the lesson. And just a quick look at that. And it's about how does the Constitution protect individual rights? We take kind of an inquiry approach. So students are asked to really contemplate what these things are and to kind of grapple with these concepts as they're learning. And so this is looking at the state Constitution Bill of Rights. And so just more, there's an instructional strategy and just another example. And then this one is different voices and how they shaped the revolution in New Hampshire. So students are actually getting some of that New Hampshire history as part of their learning about US history. So this could be if you're teaching social studies, you're teaching US history, you can actually now zero in on the New Hampshire component of that. And then it's also teaching these ideas of civics and the role of community and who the different people in a community are, and a graphic organizer. And then having students think about what they're seeing in this drawing about the Stamp Act, and then getting some background knowledge. And again, they have the access to that immersive reader, which they can then have it read to them if the text is too dense. So that is a really, really quick rundown of a few example lessons. For the youngest learners, I don't have an example yet for like K2, but they do have some that are more like a story that's read as opposed to an activity of inquiry and engagement like this. So that's a quick look at the civics resources that we're building for New Hampshire. But I also wanted to show in the platform, which all schools can have access to if they don't, we have this need to know channel, which is new. It's US government and history. It's aimed at about grades 3 to 5, but it gets used outside of those grade levels. This is a new line on maps and map reading. There's some AR, some augmented reality lessons that work on iPads, or there's a Chromebook app coming in December, so they could engage with their environment with that AR piece. And then you get into government structure, branches, and then US history. So colonization, the revolution, et cetera. And the structure of these is there's a little introductory video, a lesson, which will look familiar to you because this is really what we modeled the New Hampshire content on, was these need to know lessons. And just like with the New Hampshire ones, these can be edited by a teacher. And so they can do differentiation and or customize it to meet the needs of what they're teaching. And so that's need to know. We also have some civics specific resources. And I'm just opening these channels so that you can see kind of the breadth of what we have available to educators. It's not just what the New Hampshire agreement will be producing. So I'm just gonna click on 6 to 8 just to get kind of the middle of the road. These are activities in studio. We have virtual field trips. This one is from the Veterans Day virtual field trip where they go behind the scenes of why veterans serve, and they interview different veterans and look at different aspects of serving in the military. And there's some on financial literacy and just additional resources to kind of get a broad view of civics. It isn't just how your government works. It's about participating in your community, taking care of your planet. I'm going to go back out home. And we also have a whole social studies channel. The Week Junior is current event articles that are broken into kind of the pro cons. So you have your argumentative debate on topics, and students can engage with those. One thing I'd like to point out for our youngest learners, I'm not sure if any of you are with any of our like pre-K through about grade 2, but we have a partnership with Sesame, and it focuses on ELA, numbers. Celebrations is around diversity and understanding different cultures around the world, and coming together, which is some of that very, very youngest civics concepts. So thinking about who you are, how you fit into your world, your family, your classroom, the difference between a classroom and home. And then also a little bit of some of those early SEL lessons to support students coming into the classroom and learning how to manage themselves. So that's the Sesame partnership with some of those civics content. And then I did a search. We have this amazing, it's a podcast and it's 60 Second Civics. And they cover a lot of different topics. And some of it is, specifically on civics concepts, and some of it's digital citizenships. So it's civics and civility, if you will. So these are just little short podcasts that students can listen to, or you could listen to in the classroom. So it's just additional content that we have. This is just a very quick sampling of things. And what I would point out, and I think Claudette can, we can take questions and, get into anything you're specifically interested in. But part of the statewide partnership with the Discovery Education Experience and with the New Hampshire Civics channel is we can do professional development. There is no cost. And so I go to schools all over the state and provide on-site support, and it can be based on whatever format best fits your needs. So sometimes a staff meeting or a PLC, but you just have to reach out to me and we'll schedule it and make that happen, or we can Zoom. So whatever works, we're available to do that, and there is no cost. So I didn't know if anybody had any questions or if you wanted to see anything specific. I didn't do that good of a job.
Oh, you did a great job, Nancy. Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a lot.
I'm sure. Yeah. Yes, but if anyone, we're such a small group, so if anyone would like to just pipe up, please do. We won't even bother with the chat.
Yeah. No, I think you could just ask.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think, Lori, if we've gotten you set up. I know that Somersworth and Rollinsford, I think one side's set up, but I'm not sure if both are. So just shoot me a note and we can take care of that.
If something in the chat, Amy.
Yes, Amy would like to know how to access this.
Okay, so essentially you can go, what school are you with, Amy? Do you mind if I ask?
I'm Farmington School District at Henry Wilson.
Which district again?
The Farmington School District.
Okay, I believe you guys are set up. So if you go, do you have Clever? Do you use Clever for login?
No.
Okay, if you go to discoveryeducation.com, so just
Yep.
like this, and then go to login, it's going to log me directly in.
Oh, okay.
When you go to log in, click on educator and then try using do you have Google for your single sign on in your district?
Yes.
You can go to just log in with your Google account, And then I'm gonna write down your name and I'll look up and make sure you have an account and I'll just shoot you a link too.
Okay, thank you.
Because with Google, there's a direct link to, as well, so you don't have to go through all this.
Okay,
So I have your name and I'll just send you an email that'll get you straight in. And then,
thank you.
yep, absolutely. All schools in the state, pretty much all of the public schools are provisioned just about, like there's a few exceptions. We have about 60% of the charter schools set up and about 38% of private schools set up. And so everybody is able to have access. And it, it's great for teaching social studies, but it's also an amazing resource for the virtual field trips and science and other areas. So this can be one inroad, but it's useful for a lot of things.
Nancy, I have a quick question too. You mentioned that you take the road show on the road. What is usually required if a school or school district reaches out to you? Is there minimum group size? Nothing
Yeah.
like that?
No, and I do, and the thing that I love about the way they structured the partnership is because we're dedicated to supporting New Hampshire only, and I have a colleague that helps out. We can, if you have a professional learning community, we can come and sit with you in a workshop kind of a format and like actually build lessons, because with Studio, you can edit those, but you can also create your own. I've done staff meetings and then come back to do a deeper dive with more hands-on.
Right.
There's some schools that I've been to 4 or 5 times in order to kind of keep building capacity. So
Right.
it is exact, whatever works for the school, we do.
That's great to know. We'll pass that on as well.
Yeah.
It's terrific.
Nancy, I had a question from the larger groups that we've been hearing from at New Hampshire Civics. So, we have the More Time for Civics, which is SB 216, and it's really requiring more times for K through 12 for all schools across the state of New Hampshire. And I know you highlighted ones for different age groups within this. The part that we've been hearing a little bit about is how would you think about some of these lessons and understanding a curriculum for, let's say, a 5th or 6th grade classroom, and how do you marry the ability for these lessons to be integrated into kind of existing curriculum for teachers?
Well, that's a good question. And it's really going to vary a lot because there's some places where they actually have some kind of curriculum or program. Other places, teachers are pulling together or have already pulled together resources that they're using. So as they approach a topic, depending on if they're using the social studies framework for New Hampshire, if they're taking C3, some places are, they could decide that they're going to do a unit on the Revolutionary War. And we have resources here in Need to Know on the Revolutionary War writ large. And then within the New Hampshire Civics content that we're creating, we could also then cover the New Hampshire role in the Civil War or the players, those people, to bring that more in line with, the New Hampshire background, to make it more personal and to make it more relatable, because it's going to be places that students are more familiar with. But it's really going to vary, because I think they could choose to use, a lesson in its totality, or they might just find that they like the presentation of one of the primary source documents and the instructional strategy that goes with it. They're designed to be flexible and to kind of fit the way teachers would use them. The other thing is, with most of our lessons, they're really, and the content team and the teacher notes will convey to the teacher what they were thinking. But they're really designed to be either used, you could do it for whole group instruction where you're projecting and everybody's sort of watching, the big thing. Or as you get older, they're designed to be assigned for the students to work independently or in small groups. So the flexibility is there to do it both ways. And because of the ability to edit, teachers can edit to assign one as is, and that may be great for the bulk of the class. And then they could edit it to support students with different reading needs or to have different kinds of assessments built in. So instead of maybe writing a short response, you have a conversation, like that universal design approach, or turn it into a center. They could monkey with it and do whatever they want to do with it. And that's true for all of the grade levels. At the elementary level, they tend to get some specific New Hampshire history, so this would kind of be a nice segue right into that. But where they do teach civics and they're trying to fit that in, because that's for a lot of the grade levels, that's going to be a new requirement. This is just something that they have that's kind of ready to go, and they can approach it, you know, with like a 10-minute drop in for the day. You know, here, let's just take a look at this one lesson, or, you know, it could be one of the New Hampshire ones, or it could be the broader, like the Sesame, especially at those younger grade levels, the Sesame content may be a great way to get that civics thinking in there. Did I answer your question, Allison?
Yeah, and I think for the sense of clarity and transparency, so that the intention of these when they are fully released is not to mandate that someone has to do these lessons start to finish, and that they really are an a la carte option to pick
Absolutely.
into what fits into your classroom structure.
Yeah, and they're designed to be a support for teachers looking for things to get more time on physics and to teach New Hampshire history. And it's here to support you. And like you guys have pulled together other resources, there's the Moose on the Loose content. This is just one of the options among many for achieving those goals.
Are there any other questions?
Or do you
Well,
wanna
I mean,
say
it's a
anything?
small group, so a quicker session, but feel free to speak up if anyone has anything you'd like to share, any questions. In the meantime, I'm just gonna drop our survey link if you have a minute. Just let us know, you know, after today, if there's anything that you'd like to see in the future, time of day that's better for you for things like this. Just take a minute or two if you would, and just kind of let us know so we can sort of accommodate what works best. I know teachers are so busy, and the after school, it's funny, we keep hearing 4 to 5 is a great time, and yet I think when I get out of school, it's like, oh, 4 to 5.
Oh, it's hard.
We've
That's-
tried 5 to 6. I think we had 7 to 8 once, and we just kind of like went all over the place, and everyone that responds says that time was perfect for them. So it's kind of funny. That will help us in future planning as well.
Nancy, could you open the week junior to see what that
Yeah.
looks like?
Nice.
So what they've done is they have activities. These are done in Studio. And then you also have access to the direct reading passages. So you have the reading passages that come with Week Junior, and then they broke them into, what grade level are you, Amy? Would you teach?
6th.
So if I were to open like sports stadiums, I'm just going into your grade level.
Yep.
It's in Studio, and what they've done is chunk the article so that students are getting smaller sections of it, and then they're using an instructional strategy to distill that the passage and process it.
Okay.
And so like here's a plus, a minus, and what was interesting, and or a Venn diagram, and then a whole look at sports stadiums, and then you get down to the yes side and the no side, and so they kind of all follow that structure,
Okay.
but they're current.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you also can just use, if you like, just having the reading passage itself. Those are in here too.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, when you first opened the article, it almost looked like it had like a ReadWorks similar setup where it looked like you had some vocabulary and but
In
also,
here?
yeah, I thought I saw related keywords.
Oh yeah, that's actually keywords for searching the platform.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. I don't know if these do a glossary. They don't have a glossary.
No,
But if you wanted one, you could edit this and add a page and put a glossary on there.
and it wasn't I shouldn't have said ReadWorks. It's more of Discovery that has that similar setup, which of course it should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is part of the regular Discovery platform.
Yeah.
Okay. And Allison, I'm just going to ask you put a question in about other states. Discovery Education is our reach is about 45 million students around the world. We're used all across this country as well as in Canada, the UK, Egypt. We have a broad reach. And the New Hampshire content, when it's in, will be limited to the New Hampshire partnership. But as far as I know, I believe that it will be limited to the New Hampshire partnership. But the product across the board gets used all around the world. One other one, is anybody elementary, like lower elementary? Because the books is another good collection of read aloud storybooks that have dynamic text. And then I'm also going to open up the virtual field trips really quick. These are across there. It's so hard to kind of capture what the virtual field trips are. They're partnerships with different organizations that allow us to go behind the scenes and or go places that students wouldn't get to go on their own. So we just did one a few weeks ago on bats. They're doing documentaries now on this one's on financial literacy. This is with the NBA about being responsible stewards of the planet when we build these big sports complexes. So kind of like with that Week Junior article, but also looking at, how do you responsibly care for the environment when you're putting on these big events that have waste and use a lot of electricity and things like that. And then I mentioned we have one on veterans. This one is on the celebration of democracy. It's done at the Reagan Library. So sticking with the civics and social studies theme. This is the one on veterans. There's some on the mindset of champions. So they're all over the board. Oh, and I should have mentioned this right away. This is a tour of Washington, D.C. that was put together when COVID shut down the 8th grade field trips. And the White House asked us to do this one. And so it is actually, and I'll just open this up so you can see the segments. They did it based on how most 8th grade field trips go. So it's the White House, the Capitol, the Supreme Court, the National Mall, MLK Jr., the Unknown Soldier, the Smithsonian, and then a wrap up. And it's a great primer before students go on the DC trip, or it's a great way to make students go behind the scenes that are not able to go on those field trips. So that's one of the most heavily used resources in the platform. And it's an example of how we structure most of our video content. We're about half video. So this is a full length that's about 27 minutes, but we break it into these instructional chunks. And if you go into any one of them, you can see that it's part of that full thinking. This is more like the use of this in the classroom as the part to whole relationship. And then they have transcripts, and then they will have caption options.
U.S. Capitol?
And depending on who produces the content, in this case, we did. This one has a lot of caption options, but also Google Translate will work on the captions. So if you have a need and there's not a lot of caption options, you can translate those. There's also a transcript that's also translatable, but also searchable. One thing that I've been talking with teachers about this year is if students are using this as a database, because most schools provision student accounts as well, and they're using this for research, they can leverage this transcript to, like, if they watch the video and they're like, you know what, at about minute 3, they talked about XYZ, the student can come into the transcript and get that information. So they're not like sitting there trying to like hone in on the video. So just a lot of different instructional supports, both for the educator and the student. And when I do PD, I walk through creating activities, sharing, assigning, saving, searching. Like when I do like full on professional development, we go in depth with all of that.
I have a question for the attendees, just because I'm curious, and you all can answer in the chat if you're more comfortable. Just wondering about how you're feeling currently about your access to resources for different lessons around civics, if that feels like something that you have pretty solidly in your back pocket, you're just looking for new and innovative ways to do so, and have heard about the Discovery Ed, if it's something that you're still struggling to find, and if so, what are you looking for specifically? So just love to hear a couple voices around that if you're comfortable. Or words in the chat.
Yeah, I glossed over the top. So there's specific topics you want me to look for. Say the word and I'll do it.
This is Amy again. Sorry.
Hi, Amy.
I have been doing more and more of civic work in my classroom with my 6th grade students than I probably have ever done in the last couple years. And I used Discovery Ed a lot, and now it's nice to have this connection with New Hampshire, so can hone in more for them. Like, this is my state, and I'll be able to bring in other forms than what I've been doing, where it's focusing on their state and not kind of like from the national sense. So I'm looking forward to playing around with the New Hampshire pieces once they all become more accessible to us, and incorporating those in with the kids.
Soon. Very soon, I'm hoping.
Hi, I'm Marianne DiToronto from Green Valley School in Pembroke, and we jump around with whatever interests the students within what they can do with 7th and 8th grade. I'm the junior high teacher, so especially if it's an off year, if we're going overseas, then we study that history. We do a combination piece. So this year, I've been using the Discovery Ed, and I'm very excited about the podcast because the kids will do a lot of this on their own, and I think they're going to really enjoy it. So thank you. I appreciate this.
Yeah, what's a topic for where do they go when they go overseas?
Last year we went to Florence and Rome. Next year it'll be Ireland.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, so they have already done a segment on Irish history. I have kids for 2 years, so I can take 7th and 8th grade, and 7th grade topics and then 8th grade topics, and then switch it up the next year. And I try and rotate through every 2 years. So right now what they're working on a forensic science piece where they we just had a crime happen in the school, and they have been, not a real crime, but they've been analyzing it with the help from the forensics lab, the New Hampshire Forensics Lab. So they really like hands-on. And I know we've done the program with you, I want to say 3 years ago or 4 years ago, where we went into the courtroom. And those students really enjoyed it. So you have a terrific program.
Thank you.
I hope we get to do more, but I just love those podcasts because they're going to have a field day with them.
Yeah, I wish I was the student in your class. That sounds awesome.
Thank you. It's fun.
Lori, your question, there wasn't a lot of talk about updating the framework. So I can't speak to that. I know that it's something that they talked about, having the standards, but the standards are approaching their 20-year mark. So I wish that it had been something, but it wasn't. It's a good question. And I just brought up really quick, I just grabbed some Irish stuff for you, Marianne. And there's some background builders on St. Patrick's Day and some music.
Nice.
Oh, and the stuff you missed in history class, if you search stuff you missed in history class, those are a really good podcast too. And they kind of go into different slants on events. It's like stuff that might not have been included in a regular discussion about a topic. So those are cool.
You have quite a bit. I didn't see the podcasts before, and I actually have to check to see if I can access things correctly.
Yeah, those are kind of new. If you just search 60 seconds like this,
okay,
that should come up.
All right.
There.
Well, thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Anyone else have anything? No rush. Take your time. Makes me wish I was a teacher looking at some of this. This is really great.
Yeah.
That
And
podcast.
anybody is welcome to email me at any time with questions or for a demo or to set up PD, whatever works. We're here to, and the other thing I say to teachers is don't struggle. So if this is something that your teachers want to use, let us come help, because frustration is productive until it's causes you to quit. And I don't want anybody frustrated, and sometimes just half an hour to 45 minutes of direct help is what it takes to be up and running.
That's a good point. Yeah. Okay. Well, if no one has anything, I will encourage you again to reach out to Nancy if you think of anything after this. I want to thank Nancy for her time. We always love having you, and
Thank you.
originally I think we had 23 people registered for today. So, it happens. We call it melt, but maybe it just wasn't the best day. But we'll do this again for sure. And Nancy, when everything is live and
Oh,
happening,
absolutely.
the new year, we'll celebrate that then. But anyway, thank you in advance for doing our exit ticket. I encourage you to just keep an eye on the New Hampshire Civics website for upcoming PDs. As I said, that'll be probably early next year. And we didn't get quite to the hour, but you're still going to get that PD certificate. Just like Oprah, you get a certificate and you get one and you get one.
And you know what? If you hurry, it might not be totally pitch black outside. I can
Exactly.
you can still see a little sun on the horizon.
Go walk the dog quick.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, thank you, Nancy, so much. And thank you all for taking the time. And hopefully we will see you again very soon here online, or who knows, maybe in person.
Awesome. Thank
Thank
for
you
your
very
time.
much.
Thank you all.
Take care.